The clatter of silverware and muted conversations filled the restaurant, a quiet hum of normalcy that contrasted sharply with the tension at our table. I sat rigidly, my hands folded tightly on my lap, watching my father, David, push a thick white envelope across the table toward me with 2 fingers, as if it were something dirty he wanted to be rid of. Inside, I already knew, was another demand dressed up as an obligation, an expectation that I would once again be the family's emergency fund. My stomach twisted even before I touched it. "Open it," he said, his voice low but carrying an unmistakable sharpness. Beside him, Lily, my younger sister, shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her eyes darting between us. I picked up the envelope slowly, the paper cool against my fingertips. Sliding out the document inside, my breath caught when I saw the words printed at the top: hospital bill, balance due, $48,362.14. I closed the envelope and placed it back on the table without a word. "You can cover it," Dad said, as casually as if he were asking me to pass the salt. "You make more than enough. It's your sister." Across the table, Lily said nothing. She didn't meet my eyes. I had done this dance before, paid for her tuition, her car, even bailed her out when she crashed it 2 years ago. Each time, there was an unspoken rule: Emma will fix it. Emma will pay. But this time, something inside me refused. Maybe it was the medical debt I was still paying off from my own surgery. Maybe it was the exhaustion that came from being treated like a walking ATM. Or maybe it was the sudden, crystal-clear realization that they would never stop as long as I kept saying yes. "I'm not paying it," I said, my voice steady, almost frighteningly calm. For a moment, no one moved. It was as if the entire room had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. Dad's face flushed red. His hands, callous from years of manual labor, curled into fists on the table. "What do you mean you're not paying it?" he growled. "I mean," I said, keeping my voice level, "I'm not responsible for Lily's bills. I didn't put her in that hospital." "You selfish little," he started, his voice rising. Other diners turned to look. A waiter paused a few steps away, uncertain whether to intervene. "You're her sister," Dad barked. "Family takes care of family." I held his gaze. "Family doesn't bleed you dry and call it love." That was when it happened. Without warning, he lunged across the table, his chair scraping violently against the tile floor. His hand shot out, grabbing the collar of my blouse, yanking me forward so fast my chair tipped onto 2 legs. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Someone shouted. I heard the crash of plates breaking somewhere behind me. For a second, time froze. I saw everything: the disbelief in the waiter's eyes, the horrified expressions of strangers, the white-hot fury distorting my father's face. And then I moved. I stood abruptly, breaking his grip. My chair clattered to the floor behind me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I simply stepped back, out of reach, and stared at him with a coldness I didn't know I possessed. "I said no," I repeated. Dad's chest heaved. His fists opened and closed spasmodically. Lily finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Please, Emma," she whispered, tears welling up. "I need your help." For years, that would have been enough. Her tears would have unlocked my wallet like a magic spell. But not anymore. "You should have thought about that before," I said, turning to leave. "You walk away now, you're no daughter of mine!" Dad roared after me, loud enough that conversations at nearby tables stopped completely. I paused, my back to him. I could feel the heat of everyone's eyes boring into me, the unspoken judgment, the whispered speculations. Slowly, I turned my head over my shoulder and met his gaze one last time. "You made that decision a long time ago," I said quietly. Then I walked out of the restaurant without looking back. The cold night air slapped me in the face as I pushed through the door. My hands were shaking, not with fear, but with adrenaline, with the sheer overwhelming weight of the moment. I drew a deep, shuddering breath, the first real breath I'd taken all evening. Behind me, through the glass doors, I could see my father still standing there, frozen, people staring at him like he was something broken and dangerous. Lily sat at the table, her head in her hands. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired of being the only one expected to sacrifice, the only one blamed when I couldn't give enough. I walked to my car in the far end of the parking lot, my steps slow but steady. As I reached for the door handle, I realized my cheeks were wet. Silent tears had escaped without me noticing. I wasn't crying because I regretted what I'd done. I was crying because part of me still mourned the family I had always wished for, the family that would have protected me instead of using me, supported me instead of draining me dry. Sliding into the driver's seat, I wiped my face roughly with the sleeve of my jacket. I sat there for a long moment, staring out at the empty street beyond. This was the night everything changed. The night I stopped being their safety net. The night I chose myself. The night I realized that sometimes, family isn't who you're born to. It's who you choose to keep. And starting now, I was choosing me. In the days that followed, the silence from my family was deafening. No calls. No texts. Nothing. It was as if I had been erased, like some stain they were too disgusted to look at anymore. And yet, the void they left didn't ache the way I had once feared it would. It felt more like a deep, aching relief, a pressure that had been lifted after years of pretending that love and obligation were the same thing. I had braced myself for some sort of retaliation, but when the first text came, it was almost laughably predictable. It was from my Aunt Marjorie, a woman who had barely spoken to me outside of Christmas cards but now, apparently, felt the need to intervene. Family takes care of each other. Her message read. You've let your father down. You've let all of us down. I stared at the words for a long moment before deleting the message without responding. The next day, a flood of similar messages came pouring in, from cousins, from distant relatives who knew nothing about my sacrifices, from old family friends who had only heard one side of the story. Each text and voicemail painted me with the same brush: selfish, heartless, cold. I could have explained. I could have written out a detailed ledger of every dollar I had handed over throughout the years, every late-night phone call I had answered, every vacation I had canceled because someone else needed money more. But I didn't. Because I realized, explaining myself to people who had already decided I was wrong would change nothing. Their minds were made up. And for once, I didn't care enough to try. Still, the attacks hurt more than I wanted to admit. On the third night, as I sat curled up on my battered sofa with a cup of tea growing